When justice grinds to a halt, justice is meant to be alive, impartial, and responsive. It is supposed to move when people call for help. But what happens when the very system entrusted to uphold the law simply refuses to act? When courts, regulators, and officials delay endlessly, ignore evidence, or pass the buck until nothing is left but silence, that silence is not neutral, it is destructive. Apathy is harm. Extraordinary apathy in the face of legal duty is not a minor flaw. It is harm in itself. The people left waiting live with anxiety, broken trust, and the slow erosion of their belief in justice. The mental cost grows each day. It spreads into families, workplaces, and communities. What should have been a fair hearing becomes a prolonged ordeal that punishes the innocent more harshly than any guilty party could have hoped. Apathy is not neutrality. Apathy is complicity. To refuse to act is to choose injustice. The bedrock betrayed, the legal code is not decoration. It is the bedrock of the entire industry. Every oath, every license, every courtroom depends on its application. Yet when misconduct is ignored or delay is tolerated, that foundation begins to crumble. The law is not optional. To disregard it is to betray the system itself, and to allow delay to masquerade as process is to deny justice by another name. Mental trauma by inaction. Canada's criminal code criminalizes torture, including the infliction of severe mental suffering by officials. But the law restricts this to active abuse, threats, coercion, violence. What it refuses to recognize is that calculated inaction by those in authority can inflict suffering just as severe. A family trapped in legal limbo, watching misconduct go unpunished, endures a form of torment, sleepless nights, the fear that truth will never matter. The erosion of trust in every institution meant to protect them. When authorities choose silence knowing the mental toll, the suffering is indistinguishable from direct abuse. Justice cannot excuse this double standard. The ripple effect. When the public sees misconduct unpunished and rules ignored, faith in the law collapses. People hesitate to report crimes. Victims doubt the point of filing complaints. Communities come to believe that power, not principle, determines outcomes. That collapse of trust is not easily repaired. Once lost, belief in fairness becomes cynicism, and cynicism corrodes the very fabric of democratic society. A system that will not enforce its own rules invites contempt, and contempt for law breeds lawlessness. The Charter's promise. The Canadian Charter guarantees life, liberty, and security of the person in accordance with fundamental justice. Yet, when inaction leaves citizens trapped in endless limbo, is that not a deprivation of security? When misconduct is shielded by silence, is that not a breach of fundamental justice? Delay is denial. Indifference is violation. Such conduct is not justice, it is its opposite. The human face. Behind every delayed case, every ignored complaint is a human story. A father unable to move on, a mother whose complaint disappears into the void, a child who grows up learning that rules do not apply equally. These are not inconveniences, they are profound harms. They reshape lives, corrode trust, and inflict suffering that no statute acknowledges, but every person feels. Closing judgment. At the end of the day, this is not only about efficiency, it is about recognizing that inaction is not harmless. It is harm disguised as silence. It is mental suffering inflicted by delay. It is torture by another name. The public deserves better. They deserve a system that moves when called, that enforces its own code, that treats the law as bedrock, not suggestion. And just as importantly, those suffering from legal injustice deserve mental health resources they can rely on. When the system grinds to a halt, we must provide support for those caught in its gears. We must acknowledge that justice delayed is a form of suffering, and that those suffering need and deserve real mental and emotional support. If current institutions cannot or will not deliver that, then it is time to confront the truth. Justice that grinds to a halt is no justice at all, and those affected must not be left to suffer alone.